Now let's go add the DHCP server role to this server and just step you through it and kind of show you some of the gotchas and some of the things that are going to happen here. Let's click on Start. We'll go to Administrative Tools, and of course I'm coming right off the desktop, and we'll go to Server Manager, and of course we're going to add a role. So right down here at the bottom, I can either click right down here and say go to Roles, or I can expand these and click right here and go to Roles and add roles right here. And the Add Roles wizard is going to pop up, and you can read all this if you would like. And notice here are the roles, and we have check marks by the things that are already installed, but we're going to add a DHCP server. So we will check this, and it is saying, now wait a minute, are you going to install this without a static IP address? And we're going to say yes. In the real world, you wouldn't do that, okay? But in the classroom environment that I have set up on my machine, we're going to do this, okay? So don't do as I do, do as I say do, okay? So in the real world, you'll have a static IP address on your server. So notice we told it, okay, yeah, trust me, I know what I'm talking about. All right? And so what we're going to do now is we will click Next. And now it's going to give us some information. It's saying that I need to put at least one static address on the server. I should plan my subnet scopes and exclusions, and that is very true. I should figure these things out. What are my subnets going to be on my network? What scopes do I want to set up with my list of addresses, and what exclusions and so forth. Okay, so I will click Next, and notice it's going to ask me about my DNS for addresses. So now it's asking me about my domain. It's my preferred DNS server address, okay, that I can have an alternate. And so that's just to help us get to our DNS server. I'm going to leave Wins off of this for now. Okay, if I wanted Wins to work, I would just go put the server address for the Win server, that's Windows Internet Naming Service. And now the DHCP scopes. If I click Add here, I can add a scope. And I will call this first one, I'll just call it Standard. And actually I could call this, if my scopes are mapped to floors of buildings, anything like that. As a matter of fact, let's do that. Let's just call it 18th. If I could type, let's call it 18th floor, okay? And we're going to give out 168.192.2.20, and we will give out up to 168.192.2.65, and our subnet mask. Now, if you remember from the TCP IP videos, this is telling me that 168.192.2 is my network ID, right? And then a default gateway, and I will put that in, 168.192.2.1. And the subnet type, if it's wired, the duration will be 6 days before this expires. And if it's wireless, it'll be 8 hours, okay? So we'll leave it at 6 days. And notice, activate the scope. And so I'll click OK here, and then I click Next. And notice I could have put other scopes in here for like 19th floor, 20th floor, and so forth. Now, do I want DHCP version 6 to be automatically set up for clients? Notice IP version 6 clients will be automatically configured without using this DHCP server. Or do I want to disable this? And then I'll have to configure my own DHCP version 6 mode. And I'm just going to skip that for now. We want to stay out of the IP version 6. Notice this is the IP version 6 address for my server. And we will skip that. And then to authorize my server, and this is, notice, let me read this up here. Active Directory Domain Services stores a list of DHCP servers that are authorized to service clients on the network. Now, authorizing them makes sure that people can't put rogue DHCP servers on the network and then put incorrect configurations or try to use it to hack my network or bring it down or anything like that. And so we will leave it just like that. We will hit Next, and this is telling us this is everything that happens, and then we will click Install. And then this thing is going to click and hum and buzz for just a few minutes, and it will install DNS. And at that point, this server Notice we activated that scope and that wizard. The server will then start to read those DHCP request broadcast packets from clients and start to give out those particular DHCP addresses. And then we'll actually go out to the DHCP tool and look at what we can do with it once it's installed. Okay, once this is installed and we've got the role added, we will then see a DHCP tool out there in our administrative tools, and we can work with it and start to manipulate these things kind of on a day-to-day basis the way you would normally do it. Now, like everything else, you need to go through and play with adding this role, and then look at the various settings and options on the DHCP server. If this is the first time you've ever seen DHCP, I would recommend that you read up on it out on Microsoft's site. If this is an old hat kind of a thing with you, just refurbish, especially some of the IP version 6 stuff. Just read over it so that you're at least aware of it, and then you should be fine on the exam. I'm going to pause the video so you don't have to sit there and watch that thing flip over. Well, there it goes, just as I threatened to pause the video. So we'll give it just a second here, and we'll just make this part 1 of the video, and in part 2 we'll actually go into the DHCP server tool and actually play with DHCP and show you some of the settings that you can get to out there. We will let this roll over a couple of times. Notice it was installation successful, so we did a good job. I'm sure we'll get a big fat bonus for this. And so in part 2 now, we'll actually go in and look at the DHCP management tool and look at what we can do with what we have just done, which is add the DHCP role to the server. So I'll see you in adding DHCP server role part 2 video.